Hello, I'm Trent, aka O Trademark here, and in front of me I have the 3 new units. So I wanted to kind of showcase you guys the units, talk about their strengths, their weaknesses, but I also wanted to basically just show you guys them. So here's the 3 units: Brook, Perona, and Moria, and we'll talk about their stats here in just a second. But you can see their blessings are actually pretty cool. Got the guitar with Brook, got the umbrella with Perona, and then here's Moria. It's actually a pretty cool blessing as well. So I'm really impressed with all. There's so many blessings that were added to the game. I call them blessings. It's basically the skin or whatever that you get on once you equip a certain unit. Let's go ahead and start a Thriller Park. If you guys want to head over to the Thriller Park, let's talk about their stats while we're running Thriller. Let's get these 4 in here. Let's see. Yep. Come. Great. All right. Okay. So while the game is loading, let's actually talk about the stats a little bit here. So the stats are kind of underwhelming for the units, as in the max. The only one that really has respectable DPS is going to be Brook and Moria. They're at about 6.4 to 6.9. That is lower than most of the JJK units. So it's not like there's going to be any super great DPS units that are coming, like Gojo and Yuta and stuff. However, the advantage of these units is that they're actually support units. So Brook, what he essentially does once he gets his evolved form and he has his AoE here, is he basically has a chance with each attack. Every time that he attacks, he's either going to buff the damage, 15% damage on your units, or 10% range on your units, and that's going to last for 10 seconds. Now, originally I thought that it was both of them, but apparently it's either or. So it's either 15% damage or 10% range, which makes him a lot worse. Honestly, Kisuke is still better if that's the case. That's either or. I don't really know why they did that. I think it should just be both. That would make it good. Now, Perona, on the other hand, actually has a 50% slow for 3 seconds. And the cool thing about her is that her cap is actually at 5. So you can put 5 units in here. And if you take that with the 5 units plus the 4.6k DPS, she actually does a respectable amount of damage in, but because of the cost associated with that, I mean, you're going to have to spend 64k to get each one of those 5 up to max level. It's really only applicable if you're doing like infinite past 50, where you're actually going to start getting to that point. The last unit that was included in this update is this Nightmare Luffy right here. So let's go ahead and take a look at him. I haven't actually seen him. We'll drop him over here somewhere. But here are the new units. Got Nightmare Luffy. Let me actually turn on the attack so we can take a look at their attacks actually. Let's turn on high quality effects. Okay, so let's try and put them side by side here a little bit. Now, Brook actually has pretty respectable DPS. If you look here, he's at 6.9k at max level. And the one really interesting thing that I actually saw with the evolved forms of these units is that their value in the early upgrades is actually insane. So the highest value a unit had prior to this update was Gojo at 270. Basically, this value, the way that I'm calculating value is just DPS divided by their total cost up to that upgrade, and then I times it by 1,000 just so it's not some small decimal number. But basically, 270 was the highest that the value had for a unit. And now look at these units. Early, they're above 400. That's insane. They're basically the best level 0 units in the game. That being Brook and Perona. They're absolutely insane. And even Moria is actually really respectable DPS early. And that trend pretty much continues throughout their whole upgrade cycle until their last attacks. So you can see Brook has really good value all the way up to his last Soul King. Perona, same thing up till negative hollow. And these last values aren't bad necessarily. Like if you look at Gojo, right? Like once Gojo gets into his limitless upgrades, he starts getting pretty low value. Yuta, same thing. Yuta, once Yuta gets his last upgrade, it's so expensive that his value goes way down. But the point is, early game, they're actually great DPS units for how much they cost. So for like 10k, he's providing you with 27k damage. That's insane. He's just doing a lot early. Now late game, once he is capped out, he's got 6.9k DPS, which is pretty good. But the main problem with Brook is obviously his range. His range is really weak, 11 to 15, and then his SPA is quite high. So he's not a really reliable unit in that. He attacks infrequently, but the point of Brook is to have him buffing your unit. So he's definitely like a support type unit. Moria is an interesting one. Moria doesn't seem to have any support benefits, but he doesn't have amazing DPS either. Like he's at 6.4k, which is kind of like a Megami, but Megami has the buffs and everything that are make him so good. So let me just throw down some units real fast so we don't accidentally die. Okay. So what I would say is this, essentially, after looking at the units, I don't think anyone aside from maybe Perona is going to be meta. I think Brook is pretty solid, but because his buff is apparently either or, he was initially I thought he was just going to be like basically just a better Kisuke. But after looking at it, if it is either or, is kind of a rough unit. He does do respectable damage. He's not bad by any means. He's just not, in my opinion. There's probably other options out there. Like if you're going purely for the buff, you would go Kisuke. I guess if you could run both, and then that's an option. Have one player run Kisuke, one player run Brook, or have one player that has both for a support player. And then Perona, though, it does seem to be you would want at least one player running that. The 5 units that are going to have the 50% slow for 3 seconds. That's really strong in an infinite mode as well. And the Moria is just like is just a solid unit. Doesn't have any special things about him. He has average range. He has above average DPS, but the cost to get there is about 64k still. So still quite expensive to get him up there. Last things let's go ahead and take a look at is just some of the attacks here. Let's see. So here's Brook's. I really like Moria's attacks, actually. They're kind of cool. Perona's are the ghost attacks that you're seeing. I'm kind of curious on the AoEs on them. I want to say on their ranges. Let's see. Perona gets up to a targeted AoE circle of about 9, which isn't huge. And then Moria gets up to 9.5. So that's pretty much, let's see, who's a unit that's got like around 9. That's a pretty common unit to have. So like Yuta's Black Flash Punch is an 8. Oh, here we go. Megami. Megami's a 9 before his last, and then it jumps up to 11. Kent is a 9 before he gets his precision, his cone. So it kind of gives you an idea. It's not small. It's a pretty good area, but it's nothing like the 12 that Erza has at max upgrade, right? Like she just has a massive last upgrade. In fact, Erza's might be, let's see, Erza Lightning. Yeah, hers is an 8 right here. So this is an 8 area targeted area circle. A 9 is, most of these units are going to have just a slightly bigger circle than this. So they give you an idea of what they're, what they look like. Obviously, once we get the units, we'll do like a full showcase on them. But the primary thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is which ones are actually worth going for. And in my opinion, the top two to go for this update is going to be Brook and Perona, and Perona especially just for that slow. But Brook, you know, depending on how the aura works, or like, I guess you're definitely going to want to roll minus SPA on both of these units. You want a minus SPA trait like Godspeed or Nimble 3, because you just want them to be attacking often, as often as possible, so that they can proc, you know, as many buffs as possible, which is a little bit different than like the previous most, you know, buff units like Kisuke have the skill, so it's a fixed cooldown, whereas Brook, you should be able to increase how often he's actually buffing his unit or units around you by simply getting a minus SPA curse and a minus SPA trait. But yeah, anyways, that's basically the 3 new units. And then you got Nightmare Luffy over here. For you guys that are wondering about the new legendary unit, he's not great, okay? Let me show his stats. At max level, he's at 25k damage. He doesn't have an evolution, and you know, he's not gonna shake up anything for like newer players or free-to-play players. He's only 1.8k DPS, not doing a ton here, and he doesn't have any special effects either. So, but I mean, he's a Nightmare Luffy, so at least he looks cool. And all of these units actually are cool in that they all have the blessing effects that you get on your avatar. So overall, I would try and get all of them, but especially Brooks and Perona are just the go-tos for here. And whoops. Okay. But anyways, guys, that's it for me. Hopefully, you guys get lucky with those. If you didn't see my other video, I'll show you guys the rates again real quick so you can see. Basically, to get a mythic unit, whoops, this should have been mythic unit. Well, it's the same rates anyways. It's basically 1 in 400 to hit pity on a mythic unit, 1 in 1200 if you're going for a specific one, obviously, so like just for Brook or Moria or Perona. But the odds are against you guys. You're going to be grinding a lot of candies. That means on average, you're going to have to grind 60,000 candy per single mythic. Now, if you get lucky, you know, some people obviously get them before that. So hopefully you do get lucky. I wish you guys the best in getting the new units. Nothing really huge shakers or movers. Oh, the last thing I forgot to mention, you guys probably already noticed, but Perona is a heal unit. So she's one of the first hill units to be like a support hill unit. It means that she can slow air, and that's pretty valuable because most support units, I would say, are actually not hill units. So that's just another reason that Perona's good to go for in this update. But anyways, guys, Malo Albito, thanks for watching. Peace, I'm out of here.